Long-distance love. When Sarah met Aiden, it wasn't love at first sight. They were both attending a wedding in New York, invited by mutual friends. Sarah was a spirited artist, painting her way through life with vibrant colors, while Aiden was a software engineer, deeply engrossed in the digital world. They didn't have much in common at first glance, but there was something about their energy that connected them that day. They spent the evening talking by the riverside, under fairy lights, about their passions, lives, and dreams. They shared their stories, Sarah from California, Aiden from London. The night flew by as if time itself had vanished, but in the end, they knew they had to return to their own worlds. They exchanged numbers, unsure of what would come next. Neither of them believed in long-distance relationships, but fate, as it often does, had other plans. Days passed, and they began to text. First, it was about the wedding, the funny moments, and shared memories. Then, it became deeper. They started talking about their daily lives, struggles, and hopes. Despite the miles between them, Sarah and Aiden found comfort in each other's words. They understood each other in a way that felt profound. After a month, Aiden suggested a video call. It was late for Sarah, and she was wrapped in a cozy blanket with a cup of tea. Aiden, in his London flat, sat by his window, watching the rain. The call lasted for hours, and in that digital space, their bond grew. They laughed, shared awkward moments, and felt a closeness neither had expected. Over time, they began to fall for each other. But with every beat of their hearts came the reminder of the miles separating them. Could love truly survive distance? Long-distance relationships are not for the faint-hearted. Sarah and Aiden were no exception. They navigated time zone differences, the longing to be together, and the frustrations of not being able to share simple, everyday moments. There were days when the loneliness felt overwhelming. Sarah would walk on the beach in California, wishing Aiden was beside her. Aiden, on the other hand, would spend his weekends visiting the quaint London cafes they had once spoken about, imagining Sarah's presence. The hardest part was the uncertainty. They both had demanding jobs and lives on separate continents. There were moments when they questioned if they could keep going. Was the love they felt strong enough to survive the reality of being apart? The first time Sarah visited London, it felt surreal. Aiden was waiting for her at Heathrow Airport, and when they finally hugged, it was like everything else disappeared. They spent 2 weeks exploring the city together. They visited art galleries, shared meals in cozy pubs, and spent quiet mornings just being in each other's presence. Every moment felt magical, but there was always the looming thought of goodbye. After Sarah's trip, Aiden visited California. He loved the sunny beaches, the art shows Sarah took him to, and most of all, being with her. But again, the days flew by too fast, and soon they had to part ways once more. The cycle of visiting, longing, and separation continued. Each reunion was a reminder of how much they loved each other. and every goodbye became harder. But with every challenge, they grew stronger. Years passed, and their love endured the test of time and distance. They found ways to make the relationship work. Regular calls, surprise letters, and spontaneous flights across the Atlantic became their norm. They learned to cherish the small things, a morning text, a late-night call, the sound of each other's voices before bed. But it wasn't just about surviving the distance. It was about growth. They built their careers, supported each other's dreams, and in their time apart, they became stronger as individuals. And when they were together, they became unstoppable. One summer, after 5 long years of traveling between 2 continents, they decided it was time. Aiden applied for a job in California, and within a few months, he moved to be with Sarah. It wasn't easy to leave behind his life in London, but for them, it was worth it. As they stood by the ocean, watching the sunset, hand in hand, they knew their journey had been extraordinary. Long-distance love had tested them, but in the end, it had given them something few could understand. A bond that distance could never break. Sarah and Aiden's love story didn't end when the distance disappeared. In fact, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. They faced new challenges together, navigating life in the same city, planning their future, and growing together in ways they hadn't imagined. But with every step, they carried the strength of the love they had built across oceans. Long-distance love is not easy, but for those who endure it, the rewards are immeasurable. As the initial euphoria of finally being together settled, Sarah and Aiden began to navigate the day-to-day realities of their new life. They moved into a small apartment by the beach, where the sound of the waves became the soundtrack to their mornings. The space was modest, but it was theirs, and after years of living apart, every shared moment felt precious. Adjusting to a life without the constant pressure of goodbyes took time. Sarah was used to missing Aiden's presence, and now she found herself adjusting to always having him near. Similarly, Aiden had to adapt to California's culture and pace, which was so different from the bustling streets of London. There were disagreements about little things: what side of the bed to sleep on, how to organize their schedules, and the occasional clash of work priorities. But these were the kinds of problems they had longed to have when they were oceans apart. They learned to communicate in new ways. The skills they had developed during their long-distance relationship, patience, understanding, and deep listening became even more valuable now that they were sharing their lives. They realized that being physically close didn't mean the challenges disappeared. It just meant they faced them together, under one roof. With Aiden now living in California, both of them were able to focus on their individual passions while supporting each other. Sarah's art began to take off in ways she hadn't imagined. She had more exhibitions and commissions, and Aiden became her biggest fan, attending every gallery opening, encouraging her through her creative struggles, and even helping with logistics. Aiden, meanwhile, landed a job at a tech startup in Silicon Valley. Though it meant long hours and a steep learning curve, he was excited about the challenges ahead. Sarah would sometimes bring lunch to his office, and they'd steal moments to walk together in the city, a small escape from their busy schedules. They started planning trips together, something that was once a luxury because of distance. Road trips along the coast, weekends in the mountains, and spontaneous flights to explore new cities became part of their rhythm. These adventures reminded them of the early days of their relationship, when every moment together felt like an adventure. Only now, there was no ticking clock. After nearly 2 years of living together, Aidan knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Sarah. He had been planning the proposal for months, trying to think of something that would be meaningful without being too extravagant. The answer came to him one quiet afternoon as they sat by the beach. Watching the sunset, this spot had been their sanctuary since Aidan moved to California, and it felt like the right place to begin the next chapter. On their 5-year anniversary, Aidan suggested they take a walk along the shore, just like they did when he first arrived. The golden light of the setting sun bathed everything in warmth. As they reached their favorite spot, Aidan stopped, turning to Sarah with a smile. "I've been thinking about all the times we waited to be together," Aidan began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Every moment apart made me realize how much I want to spend every moment with you, without any more goodbyes." Before Sarah could respond, he knelt down on one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple, elegant ring that sparkled in the fading sunlight. "Sarah, will you marry me?" Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, her heart racing. She had imagined this moment, but nothing could compare to the reality. She nodded, smiling through her tears. "Yes, Aidan, 1,000 times. Yes." They embraced, and the ocean waves crashed behind them, as if nature itself was celebrating their love. The months leading up to their wedding were filled with excitement and anticipation. They decided to hold a small, intimate ceremony on the same beach where Aidan proposed. Friends and family from both sides of the Atlantic flew in to celebrate the couple, who had defied distance, time, and every challenge thrown their way. On the day of the wedding, Sarah walked down the aisle barefoot, the sand soft beneath her feet. Aidan stood at the altar, his heart full, as he watched her approach. Their vows reflected the journey they had been on, how they had learned to be patient, resilient, and fiercely loving. "No matter the odds, I promise to love you through every mile, through every challenge, and through every adventure we take together," Aidan said, his voice cracking with emotion. "Because with you, Sarah, every distance, no matter how far, was always worth it. I promise to never take for granted the love we fought for." Sarah replied, her eyes shining. "You are my home, Aidan. No matter where we are, no matter what comes next, we'll face it together." As they exchanged rings, the sun dipped into the horizon, casting a golden glow over the gathering. The waves, ever present, lapped gently at the shore, a reminder of the journey they had traveled to arrive at this moment. Years after their wedding, Sarah and Aidan continued to build their life together, now with a family of their own. Their long-distance relationship had taught them the value of time, communication, and patience, lessons they carried with them in their marriage. Though the distance was no longer a physical barrier, the lessons of those years apart remained foundational. They had learned how to cherish time together and how to navigate life's obstacles with grace and resilience. No challenge seemed insurmountable anymore, not when they had survived something as tough as distance. Their love story wasn't just about the miles that once separated them. It was about how they learned to bridge those miles with love, trust, and unwavering commitment. For Sarah and Aidan, long-distance love wasn't just a chapter in their story. It was the foundation that made everything else possible. And as they watched their children play by the same beach where their love had grown, they knew that love, no matter the distance, was always worth the journey.